Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're unpacking something literally out of this world. Or, well, out of this time. We are looking at the gathering process. And what is just so incredibly unique about this movement is its origin story. It didn't start in some stuffy political science classroom or a government think tank. It actually began as a sci-fi screenplay. The founders wrote a story set way into the future, the year 2149 to be exact. They envisioned this utopian world where the Earth's resources are intelligently managed, where everybody has access to exactly what they need, and where borders, well, they simply don't exist anymore. You can visit, explore, and live anywhere you like. It's a gorgeous vision, right? But it led the creators to a massive, very real-world question.
And that brings us to the central question driving everything we are going to explore today. The quote goes, "Imagine a healthy, thriving future. What would it look and feel like?" You see, the authors of that sci-fi screenplay essentially looked back from their imagined utopian Earth of 2049, and they asked themselves what it would actually take to get there from our contemporary times. Because, let's be honest, at first glance, achieving a world with seamlessly managed resources and zero borders seems totally impossible. But it was exactly that seemingly impossible leap that sparked a very real vision. If we really want to move from the intense present-day challenges we are facing right now to that utopian vision of 2049, there obviously has to be a massive transition in the middle. We literally have to start building that reality today. So the founders asked, what if small groups of ordinary people just started coming together to tackle these big issues? And what if these groups became popular, even ubiquitous everywhere? They wrote this whole concept into their screenplay. But then, they decided to take it a step further and try to make this fiction a reality. They embarked on this totally unanticipated mission to experiment with bringing their imagined future to life, right now, in the present. Section 1. What is a gathering? Transitioning from the realm of science fiction into the mechanics of this grassroots experiment, the core concept is actually beautifully simple. It's just small groups of ordinary people tackling big issues together. Specifically, a gathering brings small groups, we're talking usually 7 to 12 people, into specially facilitated, highly experiential conversations about what matters most to them. This isn't a lecture, it is definitely not a debate. It's a space where participants are deeply heard, their perspectives are genuinely respected, and because of that incredibly open environment, totally unexpected and unenvisioned outcomes naturally emerge from the group. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but can a handful of people in a room actually solve big systemic problems? Actually, yes. And this isn't just theory. The founders were heavily inspired by some incredible real-world successes in what's called deliberative democracy. For instance, in Canada, a small group process called the People's Verdict successfully tackled the incredibly thorny, deeply polarized issue of separatism, resulting in real, meaningful collective action. Over in Austria, the Burger Rat was tasked with working on the massive logistical and social challenge of a refugee influx. These historical examples absolutely prove that regular, everyday people find it deeply meaningful to tackle massive challenges when they're actually treated with respect. Section 2, the mechanics of collaboration. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we get into the actual toolkit they use, heavily featuring the work of dynamic facilitation. Let's break down how this dynamic facilitation actually plays out in a room. The steps are straightforward. Participants speak one at a time directly to the facilitator, they share what they care about, and they propose initial solutions early on. To wrap our heads around this conversational architecture, let's use an analogy. Think of standard meetings like a symphony orchestra, reading from rigid sheet music. Everyone has to play exactly on cue and agree on the tempo. Dynamic facilitation, on the other hand, is like a jazz band. Instead of forcing everyone to agree on a single definition of a problem before moving forward, a skilled facilitator lets participants riff off each other. They welcome those initial solutions early on, embracing the creative chaos of the group to build a shared understanding naturally. And the final piece of this jazz session-like process is something they call the harvest. This involves written charts capturing problem statements, solutions, concerns, and data in real time. Think of the harvest like a giant community garden. The raw ideas are planted by the participants as they speak. These ideas are then monitored and tended to by the whole group on large charts. The facilitator protects people's concerns by essentially planting them on separate charts, which creates this amazing greenhouse environment where highly creative and highly critical thinking can happily coexist side by side. Eventually, the group harvests all these charts to find underlying themes and alignments. Section 3. A different kind of democracy. The gathering process fits into a broader listen-first coalition, but it stands completely apart from standard deliberative democracy movements in two really key ways. First up is how people actually get in the room. Standard models often use sortition, which is a fancy technical term for randomly selecting participants. Think of sortition like jury duty. It's a mandatory randomized selection. Gatherings, however, rely entirely on open invitations. They are grassroots events organized by local hosts who invite a diverse mix of their own community members. So it's not jury duty at all. It's much more like an inclusive neighborhood potluck. And this brilliantly illustrates how local, voluntary involvement changes the dynamic entirely. The second major difference is the ultimate end goal. Standard setups are typically tasked with coming up with policy recommendations for local governments. Basically, you're gathering to figure out how to best lobby the city. But the gathering process, it isn't primarily about lobbying the government at all, though sure, that might happen. The main intention is to provide fertile ground for actionable local projects that community members can initiate and carry out entirely on their own. It is all about doing it yourself, instead of just sitting around waiting for the government to fix it. Section 4. The ripple effect.
So how do these small, isolated, local problem-solving sessions scale up to actually tackle global issues? Well, after a gathering concludes, participants are usually super fired up to take concrete actions. They might choose to attend another gathering, host their own, join the team to learn facilitation, or implement the project ideas that organically emerge from their specific group. And here is the absolute magic ingredient. These project ideas are posted publicly. This means anyone out there, even people who didn't attend that specific gathering, can see them, join in, support them, or perfectly replicate those exact projects in their own communities.
The founders lean into this absolutely fantastic analogy from nature to describe how this scales. They call it a mycelium-like network. For those unfamiliar, mycelium is the invisible, sprawling underground root system of fungi. Over time, as gatherings multiply, they envision a vast mycelium network of locally implemented projects, like a new elder care initiative in one town or a localized food system in another. These successful local ideas spread continuously beneath the surface, enriching communities and allowing different groups to learn from and nourish each other's endeavors without requiring any sort of heavy, top-down, centralized control. They also use another incredible nature analogy, a murmuration of change. If you've ever looked up at the sky at dusk and seen a massive flock of birds swooping and moving as one perfectly coordinated, swirling entity, that's a murmuration. And they do it all without a single boss bird barking orders. As these small, self-organizing project groups form locally and link up with other aligned efforts, they form a larger, beautiful social pattern of coordinated community action. The sum becomes so much greater than the parts, with everyone moving together seamlessly.
Section 5. Join the movement.
So it's pretty clear that this entire process thrives entirely on everyday people deciding to step up and bring that 2149 vision to life today. If you are sitting there wanting to get involved right now, here is your actionable checklist. You can visit their website, thegatherings.net. You can actually go read the sci-fi screenplay that started this whole shebang. You can host a gathering in your living room or take an orientation to become a facilitator. But honestly, perhaps most importantly, you can practice daily deep listening. You can take a moment to turn reactivity into an opportunity to be gracious, reflecting back what others say to identify their positive intentions, and really support their creativity in your everyday life. I want to leave you with one final provocative thought today. Thinking back to that utopian world of intelligent resource management and a world without borders, what will you build for 2149? The future isn't just something that passively happens to us, right? It's something we actively co-create, starting right now, in small groups, right in our own neighborhoods. Gather your friends, practice deep listening, and let's see what incredible projects take root. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to see what you build.